Welcome to GeekView Tavern. Long before the box office smash Shang-Chi, there was a fan favorite Marvel comic book called Master of Kung Fu. In this episode, 4 animation and comic book professionals settled into the corner booth to explain why the art and stories of this groundbreaking comic series inspired them. Remember to like the video, share it with friends, and please subscribe. Okay, Skeeter, hit the intro. Tell somebody who's never read the material, but they're interested in the movie, why they should go back and read it. Welcome to GeekView Tavern. I'm your bartender, Dave Olbrich. I was the publisher at Malibu Comics. On my left, as you're looking at your screen, is Ed Catto. He's an instructor at Ithaca College School of Business, managing director of Agenda, founding partner of Captain Action Enterprises. That sounds important. Contributing writer of Back Issue Magazine, Overstreet Price Guide, and an illustrator at Airship 27 and Ahoy Comics. So yeah, he's kind of a big deal. Right below Ed on your screen is my partner in crime, the guy permanently seated at the end of the bar, creator of Dinosaurs for Hire, founder of the Ultraverse, Emmy Award-winning writer, Tom Mason. Yay! Thanks, Tom, for being here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And right below me on the screen is producer and writer Shaun McLaughlin, known for Superman, Batman, Pinky in the Brain, and claims he's only been arrested.
Perfect record. 1 arrest, no convictions.
So we're all here today because we are all lovers of the original run of Marvel's Master of Kung Fu featuring Shang-Chi. We have not yet seen the movie. But we're not here for that. We're here to talk about the great comic book series. What was writer Doug Moench's story template, Mr. Tom?
The template for Master of Kung Fu is exactly what Ed pulled out, which is where you've got 5 or 6 issues where there's a huge build-up to your James Bond-like conclusion, and then there's a moment, an issue or an issue and a half where it's like, whew, all right, let's regroup. What are we going to do now? And then we'll start to build up with the next James Bond villain. And it's the same sort of thing that Claremont uses on X-Men.
Sure.
Where there's this massive buildup of stuff. There's this huge fight with the Sentinels or whomever, and then there's a moment where they all rest and sort of restate their origins again, and then they go back to the next big threat.
It also reminds me of like the way Cannell handled stuff like Wise Guy, some of his more serious shows, where you would have an arc, and it's the way a lot of television is now, where you have an arc. And then you have like Ed said, a palate cleanser. You have a moment, and then you start a new arc, and it allows the story to build over time, as opposed to just having to hit, every single month.
Yeah, and Moench was on the book officially. Obviously, there were a couple of fill-ins here and there and that kind of stuff, but he was officially the writer on the book for almost exactly 100 issues. He came on with number 21, and his last issue was 122.
Yeah, I mean the only modern equivalent would be like Dave Sim and Cerebus and Eric Larson on Savage
Dragon.
Yeah. What about Snyder? Didn't Snyder do a whole ton of Batman in a row, or was he jumping from book to book?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That is good. I don't think he got 100 issues in though, because that's almost like 9 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He almost did, but yeah,
because Master Kung Fu started in 74 and ended in 83.
Right. I remember at the time, I probably should have refreshed my memory, like they wanted to end the book, and I think they wanted to end it in a way that Moench disagreed, so he left. So those last few issues are like...
There's 3 issues by Alan Zelenitz.
Yeah, and I remember I didn't buy him out of...
And it has an ending, right? Doesn't the series have an absolute ending where like Shang-Chi's done with this now, and they added another racist caricature where he goes to a fishing village and does that.
I don't know about that.
Getting
but
a job.
The cover to the last issue is him walking away from his fighting gear.
Yeah.
Just like reminiscent of Spider-Man and Cap.
Spider-Man.
All the other, he's got his back to the camera and the costumes in the foreground.
Is the uniform in an alleyway trash can? Because that's usually where it goes.
No, it's actually on the ground, but
okay.
And the difference is Shang-Chi's butt naked. Spider-Man had his Peter Parker clothes on.
It's next to a puddle, so you know that he's gotten rid of it.
In this issue, Shang-Chi says, "Kiss my ass," and then he
and he just walks away arm in arm with Billy Jack. Right?
Well, one tin soldier plays in the background.
There you go.
There you go.
Gulacy does the book, and all of us go nuts. And then there's this period of about 12 issues or so where Jim Craig is the primary artist. Doug's still writing it, so the stories are good, but the art's really hard to look at after you've gotten used to Gulacy. And then Mike Zeck shows up and blows our minds. It all starts all over again. And then Gene Day comes on with issue 76, and they go like 2.5 years on the book.
Yeah.
And just creating amazing stuff. And then the handoff is kind of cool because Zeck just drops out and his inker takes over.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing about Jim Craig is he's actually quite good. He's on the wrong book.
And it wasn't Gulacy. That was the thing. It wasn't Gulacy anymore. So
and looking at the system now, it's hard to sort of understand that the system hadn't prepared anybody for Gulacy to leave and do something else and to bring in like the next Gulacy at that time.
You look at that first Jim Craig issue after he's trying so hard to be Gulacy and it's just not working. Kind of feel bad for the guy because I think that was probably what he was told to do.
But it's a problem they solve when Zeck leaves because Gene Day is already, it's like the teacher and the student, and so suddenly Gene Day steps in, and it's not just that it's seamless; it's that it seems to be incrementally better.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot to recommend Gene Day's run.
Like Zeck is amazing, so I don't want to take anything away from him. And then you think, oh, he's leaving the book, and then Gene Day steps in, and it's like, oh
yeah, look at that.
I really like Zeck's stuff, but Zeck seems more like and really nothing against him because I was a huge fan of Zeck, but he seemed like a more of a regular superhero artist, where Gulacy and Gene Day seemed like they were doing something else. So the Zeck stuff is good, but it's really more, and even if you look at the body types, they're more traditional superhero, broad-shouldered, narrow-waisted body types, where Gulacy sort of nailed that Bruce Lee really lean whip build.
He was like this lean Bruce Lee guy who looks like he only eats vegetables, practices yoga, and does all of that. And then you get back to Zeck, and Zeck is somewhere in the middle. Shang-Chi is still a little bit thicker than he should be, but the storytelling is still dynamic.
Yeah, that Day stuff just, man, he burst on the scene and he was strong, and then he got stronger and stronger and stronger. And some of those splash pages, like in the churches and cemeteries, you just stare.
Look at that.
Detail. Yeah. Great action.
That's Gene Day just tearing it up.
It's pseudo Gulacy, but it's not Gulacy.
Yeah.
And then he was doing some really cool interior stuff too.
Do you have an example, Dave?
I do. I mean, it's the best pick you can think of, but it's awfully good and sort of shows what he was doing. So he's in the middle of this fight, he was doing all sorts of really experimental stuff like this, and it just kept you turning the page.
Even those figures in those last two panels really look like Gulacy type staging and the sort of like shorthand of forms.
Also, this isn't. I'll correct the Olbrich now, but this isn't really experimental. This is Eisner. This is the kind of stuff that Eisner and Krigstein were doing when they were allowed to.
Yeah. But in the 80s, that's experimental.
There weren't any Marvel guys doing this in the 80s.
Oh yeah. I mean, it looks groundbreaking to us now, but it has a history that goes back to the 50s.
Right.
Yeah, so clever. Even like in panel 2, the way the character breaks the borders. Only the Shang-Chi character breaks the borders.
There's been 1,000 fight scenes of Shang-Chi with some whacked out villain. How can I make this visually interesting?
But if you look at the flow, the Shang-Chi's arms in panel 2 are pointing us to where he is in the next panel.
Right.
Which is also guiding us to the 4th panel, which leads into the 5th panel, which is a Wally Wood type silhouette. And
then you've got the boards going across the top.
Right. So there's elements in like 2 or 3 panels at a time and the bottom that pull you across. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Doug Moench has started to, by this time he's really got this book dialed in. If this would have been in the 30s or 40s in the numbering system as opposed to in the early hundreds, this would have been a lot more wordy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that it took him much longer to read Master Kung Fu than it did most other books back in the day, for sure.
It really did.
Yeah, when Zeck was inspired though, he was inspired. I think this is just a wonderful cover.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the contrast and the fact that the hero's not in the superhero outfit, and Leiko's very attractive there, and I think it's just a wonderful cover. And there's a little bit of a threat there with you can see the claws of whatever he's about to fight, and I just think it's spectacular.
But even looking at the body type for Shang-Chi, he's gone to a more traditional superhero body.
Oh yeah, he's got those. Before. Well, Zeck always did those big lats, right? He's got those big, giant back muscles for some reason.
Yeah, you know, the trade dress is gorgeous. I can even see that next issue. Like, you know, the logo is a little more clever, and the trademark corner box is just gorgeous. You know, that stance that kind of tells you everything you need to know about the character. And again, even like, you know, breaking the border of that corner box is so great.
Yeah, it's a little too bad they were selling the covers back in those days. Remember all the ads that would run across the top of the covers?
Yeah.
But it really inhibited some of what you could do with the covers, but this still worked out great.
It's that there's an idea in all this kung fu stuff. It's a very appealing sort of superhero type fantasy that you don't need this tremendous size. You just need the correct knowledge.
Which also plays back into the James Bond stuff, because James Bond only had gadgets and his smarts, and he could punch a couple of guys, but he was not a superhero. But
in the books, he's constantly getting his kicked and like barely coming out of the thing alive.
Right. So how would you sum up your love of Master Kung Fu so that we can finish this up for all of our lovely viewers? Ed, what would you tell somebody who's never read the material but they're interested in the movie? What would you tell them about why they should go back and read it?
I feel like when I look at that movie trailer, it's devoid of all the things that I liked about the series. But
we feel your pain.
But at the same time, that group creating those Marvel movies always seem to figure it out, right? Most of the time, they're really strong. If I were to say the thing about the series, it was a super thoughtful action-adventure tour de force. And we went along the ride with this guy who was sucked into this world of spies. And there were family issues as well. And there were, you know, issues with his true love. It was a great ride. Not the way you're riding, like, comfortably in a sports car, but, like, clinging to a trolley car on the outside and just going down a hill. So, like, it was that kind of ride. The art was brilliant, and the writing was spot on for the day. You know, I just have such a fondness for it all these years later that I think only come about because it was so very, very strong.
Yeah. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, the thing is that you can't say, well, if you love the Shang-Chi movie, you're going to love these comic books, because they're two different animals. I would pitch Master of Kung Fu as, you know, it's This Is Us meets James Bond. Like, I can't remember the continuity of Master of Kung Fu from issue to issue. I couldn't piece together every single story or everything that mattered. I can remember all of the characters.
Right.
Yep.
And I can remember their dynamic, and I can remember their betrayals and their disagreements or whatever. And I love that cast of characters. I feel like if you could take that cast of characters and put it in something else, it would still work. If you want to see basically a good old-fashioned Marvel comic, and I mean that in the best way, from the 70s, you want a good story that has really deep characters, has a really deep backstory, and has spies, robots, laser-eyed guys, volcanic science.
Yeah, and there's real stakes for the characters too. They're hurt. They're near death. That some of them die. I mean, there's real stakes going on.
If you like that kind of stuff and that's what you're into, read this. If for anybody who loves James Bond movies, or anybody who loves spy fiction, anybody who loves oddball superhero stuff, this is your thing. I wouldn't try to tie it to the movie, other in name only.
Right.
That's not to denigrate either one. It's just that they're two different things. It's like orange preserves and strawberry jam. You're not going to convince me they're the same. So. So there's my take.
Well, what do you say, Sean? After that,
well, I would say it's like a good extrapolation from what might have been with Enter the Dragon, and if Aaron Sorkin had come on board as a writer later on.
Oh, there.
Nice. Well done. Yeah.
That was many fewer words than I had.
Yeah, surprise.
It's got some great action adventure stuff in it, but it's got a patina of thought about it that I don't think a lot of the action adventure stuff has to it. While we can look at it now and think maybe it's not as sophisticated as it was, and certainly there's some unwelcome racial stuff in it, for the time it was really sophisticated. It was really trying hard with things that other media just weren't really. I mean, this is, the same time of Pretty in Pink and characters like that. So this is pretty advanced for how to treat people of color at the time.
Sure.
And make them leads in an action adventure and romantic lead.
Right? Yeah, I agree. The last issue of the original run of Master Kung Fu came out 38 years ago. Reading it again, I was struck by how much it was converted into a team book. It's a James Bond team book disguised as a Kung Fu book.
It's an ensemble drama, and they're just using the action as the spine to hold it together.
Yep.
And
that's a really good description, Sean. Yeah.
Characters. Yeah.
This has been a spectacular episode. I'm so excited to get it up and get it edited.
Because you got to talk about issues 46 through 50 again. So
Well, I mean, think about it. This is an amazing series, right? Very few other titles can say they had any kind of consistency in the creative team, and whenever it did change, it somehow got better. Like you go from Gulacy, and then you have the Zeck period, which is really amazing, and then you have the Gene Dave period, which is really amazing, and Doug holds the whole thing together for 100 issues. Come on, that's like Lee Kirby.
I was thinking about it when
I did
you first approached me about talking about this, thinking about how long.
I left when Doug left, and that's.
Yeah, then you only missed the last 3 episodes. Oh, you only missed the last 3 issues. So
yeah, I did that as a protest. I remember taking a stand.
You're not going to get my 50 cents.
Oh, you are a fan. Oh, you are a fan, aren't you, Ed?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I kind of like looked at it in the comment. Oh, I don't.
Yeah. All right, boys. See you next time. Thank you for stopping by GeekView Tavern. Thanks for visiting GeekView Tavern. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified. Come back soon.